Hello, hello. We are back. Season 3, official, episode 2. Spring has sprung. I wanted to do one of these every kind of season or even more frequently than that, but spring happened.
Yep, it's over.
And it's over. And I feel like we struggled.
Mm-hmm. We definitely had a rough season, but I think we're coming out of it stronger.
Yeah.
We're at a turning point, I think.
Yeah.
We've broke through.
Hey, you're jumping ahead.
Oh.
Anyways, yeah, no, I feel like we came out of the winter season. I felt like we had a solid plan. Like we really spent a lot of time working on a schedule and some routines and like goal setting, and just we had this, I mean, I don't want to say perfect vision, but like this ideal vision. And then it felt like to me like a race where the starting gun went off, and I just biffed it. Like I just fell so hard and like just could not get us like functioning properly. And I feel like there was a lot of things that contributed to that.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely.
How'd you feel?
I mean, I got an ulcer, so that wasn't great.
That's right.
But
stress induced.
There was a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and I think, we just had a lot of new stuff on our plate. A lot
like
of
what?
Curveballs. I mean, for me at least, there was a lot of new with Pioneer.
Yeah, I think that hit you really hard. Him turning 2.
Yeah, turning 2, toddler phase starting. Yeah. And just all that comes with it. I mean, there's a lot of...
I almost remember a distinct moment where, like, you looked at him and you're like, who is this kid?
Yeah, when you have, like...
When he's throwing himself on the ground and having a tantrum. He never did that before, ever. And suddenly he's, like, limp noodling, and you were like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's just, like, there's no reasoning with them, at this point. And, yeah, they disobey, they just fight against you without any sort of reason. So you try.
And there's no bribing. There's no. I mean, like sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, even explaining things.
Tough.
But yeah, I mean, stuff like that, and just routine not being super solid. Like it just was difficult.
Yeah, yeah. You kind of you explained it to me in a way that I thought was really good, and it was just like, I wanted to like fix the plan. Like there's something wrong with the work that we put in, and like we just have to tweak it some more, and you were just like, no, we worked really, really hard. We just it's like creating a new muscle, or like going to the gym, having a solid plan. You don't just get a 6-pack. Like you have to put in the work, you have to put in the time. And for that beginning portion, it's just hard, and it's kind of going against the grain, breaking bad habits, old habits, creating new ones.
Just grinding through it.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it felt like. It felt so bad. To the point where we had to have like a conversation. Like we had to sit down and be like, that was kind of where it hit me. It was like, you came back from your TDY, which is a work trip. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, I have to single parent for a time, and usually I give it my all. I just give it my all to the point where when he gets back, like that's when I am gassed and I am like ready for you to step in and like help. And you helped for like a day, and then you looked just as exhausted as me, and I was like, no, wait, no, there's something wrong here, because you had taken your bike. You had sent me pictures of this bike ride. You get to sleep in a bed all by yourself without a toddler in it, or like pee without being interrupted. And so in my mind, I'm just like, you can't be as tired as me. And I kind of said it on my Insta stories once, but it's like that comparison game is pointless, and it leads nowhere. you reflecting that you are that tired just means that you are that tired, whether you are getting stressed out in other ways, emotionally, or in different situations, or carrying, even just like carrying stress differently. Like, two people can have the same stressful situation going on, and one person can be like releasing that stress, letting it go, or, you know, praying, believing that God is in control, or using different kind of like techniques or things like that. And if that other person is just like kind of like you, holding on to it, carrying it with you, and trying to, what would you say?
Well, I mean,
handle it yourself, kind of.
Yeah, muscle through, but also like I think it's there's always this interesting like game, like you said, a comparison game where you could easily, you know, look inward and only think about your stressors, your work that you've put in, but I think back to even like my deployment and like how much anxiety and worry and stress that I held on from afar, you know, about you guys, like, you know, and like, cause I was worrying about how you guys are doing and like stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, I, you know, am so far away, so disconnected, you know, in a way, but yet I could still, you know, hold on to carry some of that stress because I'm worried about you guys and worried about how you're doing with him and stuff. And so, yeah, I think there's so many ways that anyone can carry it healthily or unhealthily.
Yeah, if you don't have like coping mechanisms, or even if you're just like out of practice. And that was one of our things. Like, we are very spiritual. We do believe in, you know, God. And even just when you're in the grind of the day-to-day life and you're not taking that time to kind of sit down, be reflective, meditate on the word, pray, and just like kind of have that like time, you're just kind of waking up, taking care of the kid, getting breakfast on the table, getting yourself ready for work, going out the door, trying to read a quick devotion, trying to like, you can kind of lose that connection and that the intentionality. The whole day. Yeah. You basically blink and you're at the end of the day like we are now. And you're like, oh, dang, okay. And so I feel like, yeah, if you don't have those things and you're not actively paying attention to them, just like muscle, like it's kind of a dumb, cheesy like comparison, but it is. It's like just like muscle. You can lose your muscle strength that you've built up if you don't keep on working it. Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like that's what happened to us. We just kind of got lost in the sauce. I don't even know how to say it.
I think we just had our heads down and we were just trying to
plowing through.
But it was to our detriment, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we, of course, because we're parents, you put off the things you set out to do, like music. You just continue to put it on the back burner because as far as a choice goes, it's like, do I sit down and try to do this, or do I clean the dishes? Do I sit down and do this, or do I take a break because I am so freaking tired?
Or go to bed.
Or just go to bed because it's already late. You just look up and you're like, oh my gosh. So yeah, spring was tough. But I had something else I wanted to say, but I think I forgot. So
I think on a positive note, I think we did analyze our rest and stuff as well. And I would say that...
Oh, well, sorry. First, I want to say is we had a talk. You came back and you were tired and I was tired. And I was like, we can't both be this tired. Like in a partnership, one is supposed to be able to pick the other one up if they fall, right? That's kind of essentially like the goal, is to kind of both be gearing towards health. And then, hey, if one slips and falls or is kind of struggling during a season, the other one can kind of encourage, lift up, kind of help. And like, we were just both down. And so it was like, okay, we need to take our health seriously in every aspect, mental, physical, spiritual. And so that's when we had that talk. And that's when I think what you're leading into is like, we really analyzed our, like how we weren't taking the rest that we were supposed to be taking, that was written in our schedule. We had it put into our schedule. Like our schedule, it sounds strict, but it's strict with breaks and room for rest and screen and like social media and like, you know, distraction breaks and even Saturdays like open. There's like nothing, you know, during huge chunks of certain days that is intended for joy, rest and stuff like that. And we were just skipping over those because we just had so much to do.
Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah, it was using our rest well. So, you know, maybe not just scrolling every time or watching a video on a screen every time, but also, like you said, like utilizing those times on like free times on Saturday to spend time with people, like open up and let people into our lives, and like just things that are healthy, and not just so like, I don't know, it just becomes a blur otherwise. Like
you did point out, and I think this is important to mention, we did come right out of COVID. Like we came out of, which was like isolation. So I think that pairs well with like, we kind of got into the habit of just focusing on ourselves and just like tunnel vision, like survival. Honestly, I think it is what's commonly talked about as like survival mode. And so it was, we had a baby after COVID, right? So we went through COVID. It was super intense. We actually did really well during that season, but I feel like it's because we used all of our energy to make sure that we were doing well, that we were happy, we were super joyous, and a beautiful baby boy came from that.
Yeah.
But then as soon as we did that, we moved not across the country,
across
out of the country,
ocean.
across the ocean, as first-time parents, away from every friend we had built and developed, every family relation. And not only that, to a country where the language is not the same. So if there's any type of unfamiliarity, like it was all of it. It was all of that. And then you went on a deployment, like shortly after that. So I think
we're coming off of all of those things.
All of those things, which again, in a deployment, it's the same. I just buckle down, tunnel vision, get through it. So I really think I'm kind of discovering this like as we're talking, but like we've just been in survival mode for a really long time.
Since March 2020.
Yeah. And I think it caught up. It all kind of caught up to us.
I think I think I've been trying to do a lot of stuff in our own strength and muscle through. And I think, this is just the end of our rope. Or just like where
it was
we're
just
trying
a
to do
low
it ourselves.
Point. Yeah.
And I think we're doing better now at trying to get support, surround ourselves
with community, develop friendships, which is what we were so good at in California. I feel like we thrived there because we dove into community just head first, and we made some beautiful lifelong friendships and relationships that were just so nurturing. So then I think that we also can tell here, because of our own like lack of kind of stepping into it, just how dry it felt. So dry here, and just like every aspect of life. We're still happy. We're very positive, happy people, and I think we love each other. So like I enjoy hanging out with you. You are truly my best friend. So we're never alone. Like I don't ever feel like I'm alone in this.
But I could definitely see, like we were reflecting, like we said, talking about the trials that we went through coming here and stuff. But it this is very dramatic. But
oh no.
But like it felt in a way kind of like you got like admitted into a prison or something. Like it's like, here's your room. Like with COVID, it's just like we had to ROM, isolated in a hotel.
We stayed in a hotel room with a newborn baby for like 2 weeks.
At least 2 weeks. And then you had to find your cell, find your house.
Stay in it.
And then they're like, hey, welcome to Yokota. Everything's closed. You
can't even go off the base. I forgot about that.
And so like that's what we came
It was really
into.
like a little prison.
Yeah. And it's like, and then it slowly opened up, but we didn't know if it was going to stay open.
True.
Because some things did open and close, like parts of the country.
Japan is like super mask, like never take it off ever.
Well, and their borders.
As a part of the culture. The borders were closed. Like, friends couldn't even come visit you. Family couldn't even fly in. Yeah.
So it was a lot. And I think all of that made it so making this place feel like home was difficult. And I think after 2 years of being here, we're finally realizing what we need to do to truly make this feel like home.
Yeah, and we haven't. And that's also our perspective thing too, where when you live a life where you're always looking for the next, I feel like we are kind of like always like, oh man, I can't wait to be here. And we caught ourselves doing that in California a bit. We were kind of like, man, I can't wait to leave California. We don't really love California. Like we could see ourselves here better or here better. There was a couple places, Colorado, there was an opportunity in Colorado, and we were like, oh yeah, well, we could see that. Or, and then Japan, we're like, oh yeah, we want to travel,
We even did that before the military too.
I know, I think that's just kind of...
Because we were like, oh, we could be there, we could be stationed there.
And so we really are working on, I think currently, being here now, being present, looking up at the people around you, your neighbors, your coworkers, just kind of learning how to, my phrase for the year is master the art of living. And I just mean like life can be very beautiful if you stop and you slow down and you look up and you appreciate it for what it is. I am very ambitious. I do have a lot of goals. My drive and consistency doesn't necessarily match, but we're working on that. Big dreamer, but I feel like the art and the beauty of living is really mastered in the daily life because tomorrow isn't promised. And so you should definitely be trying to enjoy your now too. So I think we're working on that. I feel like spring sprung, and to stick with a very corny analogy, I feel like it was very much like a growth season, but the growth wasn't seen like the roots of a plant. We were underneath the ground, really working on deep relational roots, our life roots, just kind of healing and cleaning a lot of that up. And I would say with different choices that we've made recently, very recently, we finally have poked our heads up above the ground. We're kind of breaking new ground, stepping into the light a little bit. You've hopped back on the drums.
Yep.
Gotten your chops back a bit.
Yep, playing at church and at work even.
Yeah.
I'm doing my first drum gig in the Air Force band tomorrow morning.
That's so exciting. And I know that's like not a huge, like it's not, but it's funny what little things we neglect that actually mean something to us. I joined the worship team at church too, and that just using my voice again on a regular basis, just practicing and just being able to do that has been really good for me too, really good for the soul. And then with that comes new friendships, new relationships, new people that you meet. And it is very sweet. It's just kind of like you wake up and realize, oh yeah, there are people around me. There is life to be lived. There's, it's like we want to do this musical album. Of course, that's a big driving goal for this year, but like doing things just for the sake of, I don't know how to explain it. Like, how do you say it? Like drumming, just getting back into that motion of something that you've loved your whole life. Like that's just a part of you.
It's a gift. Yeah.
It's a gift and a part of you that you're passionate about.
Right. Yeah. And I think, it's something that if you neglect, it's like a part of you kind of withers.
Yeah.
And like it's like having a plant, or like you need to water it. And so like when I started playing drums again, I felt like I got energy, and I felt like I got like just joy and just renewed kind of spirit.
It's like a soul refreshment. Yeah. And that's kind of the fixation for us is it's not just about, spiritual health and your connection with God. That is a beautiful thing, but even the Bible talks about it being more than that. And it's like you have to take care of your body, because if you don't take care of your body and all you do is just read the Bible all day and eat junk food, like you're going to feel like garbage. Like you have to take care of your body too. But then a part of that is taking care of your mind, keeping your mind sharp, exploring, learning new skills, things like that. But then the one that kind of not as often neglected, but is so important is the soul, is the joy, doing things that bring you joy. It's funny how we've talked about rest a lot and how rest isn't just sleeping. It's not just I need to sleep more because I'm so tired. It's not I just need to sit down and watch TV for a bit and that's going to refresh me. Sometimes rest is talking with a friend over coffee. Sometimes rest or in refreshment of the soul, I guess the better word would be refreshment, is playing the drums and doing something that you enjoy and love and have loved, and just bringing that back out again. I've seen you kind of light up with, taking out different games that you haven't touched in a long time and dusting those off and even just like organizing them. It's just something so small and something you're like, well, that's not important right now, but actually it is. Yeah. And how when you take that time to do those things, for me, sitting still is really, really hard. But when I take that time to be still and just do something that refreshes me, it actually pours into my work ethic. It actually gives me that vigor and that energy to do the rest of the stuff that's harder. So it's just kind of funny that the more I neglect that, because I think I need to do these other things more, the more tired and exhausted and the more I cycle back to breakdown. Yeah. Well,
I actually, just to piggyback off of what you just said, like I just watched a video on mental health and board gaming today. Super random, but applicable. But the guy just said how beneficial one aspect of board gaming is with the mental health is the aspect of playing something with set rules, where we all live in a life that is out of your control, chaotic, so crazy and so can blindside you at any point. Playing a game like a board game where it has a set amount of rules and you all sit around a table and agree to play by those rules, something like that, where like you do this activity where you're like, I have this expectation and I can control its outcome, and then do it, and then you're like, that felt really good, even something like that, where you can have at least a little bit of control over this aspect of your life for a moment. It can be refreshing and be like, oh, that was nice. Yeah.
I think that's a human thing. A human thing is we have to try to exert control in certain areas of our lives, and people can mismanage that, where you do it with food and like you can, or you do it with diet, or you do it with, there's a whole bunch of other like bad coping mechanisms that you can, do that with. But to find healthy outlets to kind of express that, because we live in a chaotic world. I looked at these ants the other day. I was outside and they were just carrying a little baby larva away, and it was horrible. And I was like, oh my God, nature and like the world around is terrifying. It's just crazy. Just people eating people's babies out here. Like, oh my gosh. And I was like, as humans, we can kind of get into this little bubble and think that, it's different, but it's not. People are dealing with really terrible things: sickness, disease, poverty, addiction, bad relationships, just there's so much, and it's so heavy. And so if we can fix our eyes and our minds on hope and things that bring us refreshment and joy, goals to live a life of purpose, to make a difference, to shed a little light into this world, I think it makes the human experience and just this journey rich, and worth it. Anyways, I'm hopeful for this next season.
Me too.
I'm hopeful that we will do more podcasts or I don't know what you call this, conversations in the future. I'm feeling better already. We've made a couple tweaks, and I already feel so much better, more like myself. And got any last final parting words?
No. See you soon.
We'll talk to you later. Catch you on the next one. I don't know how to end this.
Bye.